Yes, I think learning by doing came about, and we now use it for all sorts of issues, like working in disadvantaged communities and equity-related issues, as well as HIA. Because what we found through our training programs was that you could train a lot of people with head knowledge about how to do something, but then it led nowhere. So they would go home, and even though they had the knowledge to do a HIA, they never got around to doing it because of lack of confidence. And so we changed our 5-day training course into something which took people through an actual HIA process. So people had to apply to come to the course with a project and a team, so that they would have a project they wanted to work on, and they would nominate 3 or 4 people to be in their team. They would then have to get the authorisation from their employer to allow all the team to go to the training and to release them for a few hours a week to work on their project. Of course, this didn't always work out, but it was a step forward from our point of view. So what the people would do, they would come, and the first day we would teach them about screening and scoping. Then they would go away and work on their own project and do screening and scoping, and then come back maybe a month later and present their screening and scoping report. And then they would be taught about identification and assessment. And then they would then go away and do their identification and assessment and come back, a month later to do their recommendations and follow-up evaluation. And we found that was very good because it gave people hands-on experience of what they needed to do and some of the problems of doing a HIA. For example, finding robust evidence in the identification part for what they wanted to say. The other components of that learning by doing was a help desk support and site visits and funding. So what we did was we had a designated person who worked with that particular group, and they could ring that person up at any time to get help. And it didn't matter what the help was that they needed. It could be information, it could be some personality or organisational problem, it didn't matter. And if that couldn't be solved on the phone, people would then go out and visit them and do a site visit. In fact, that was very important because then you got to know the feel of what was going on, what the place looked like, because often there were issues or people that you knew nothing or very little about. So that was a very important thing. And we learnt very early on that sometimes the difference between people being successful and not was things like being able to hire a venue or give people a meal or pay for transport for consumers to come to the meetings. And so we would give people $2,000 that they could spend however they wanted, as long as it supported the HIA. So that's basically what we did. And over time, I think we've been very successful in actually finishing HIAs, so that theoretically the HIA should take 6 to 9 months, but often they take much longer to complete because people get caught up in the real world, and that doesn't worry us because we're trying to teach them. And so as long as they stick with it and finish it, we're happy to support them in it whatever way they need. Sometimes that's actually by us talking to their managers to make sure they get the time to do the work, or sometimes it might be talking to their managers because they've come up against a political problem that they need somebody to advocate on their behalf to move forward.